Carter trashes Chad Johnson's career. After hearing Chad Johnson and Travis Hunter have a fun back and forth, going at it and talking. You know how Chad do, talking about he'll route Travis Hunter up, and Hunter talking about what do you do to him. You know, they was going back and forth. So Cris Carter decides to chime in after hearing these two go back and forth. Let's check it out.
Go back to points in Chad's career where, and definitely the point he was in New England, you had to go out there and tell him what to do because he couldn't get open to save his life. So I remember times he had an NFL uniform open that he couldn't get open against average guys.
Guys that were worse than that weren't near as good as Hunter.
There's nothing that pissed me off more than old guys who used to be able to do something, and when they recall what they did, they swear up and down that it was better than how they did it. Look up Chad's stats. How many catches he got? How many touchdowns he got? Look it up. Like,
is there any chance that Hunter can't stop him?
There's a better chance of Chad getting in the Hall of Fame than Hunter stopping him.
And what are the odds that Chad gets in the Hall of Fame?
Y'all listen and y'all hear me clear. Listen, first, yes, I think Cris Carter, he was great during his time. He was a hell of a route runner. He ran some hell of a routes, and he had some of the best hands in football. That's what he was known for, route running and having really good hands, right? But he is really beside himself coming for Chad Johnson. He is really beside himself coming for Chad Johnson. And he was nothing more than a possession receiver. That's all Cris Carter was, a possession receiver. A receiver that catches the ball and is immediately tackled. That's what a possession receiver is. They have no yak. Cris Carter is overrated, to be honest. He is really talking about himself. Cris Carter is one of the most overrated cornerbacks to ever come in the NFL or into the Hall of Fame. As a cornerback, understand what I'm saying. As a cornerback, what do I have to worry about covering a guy like Cris Carter? He's going to run a nice, crispy route and get tackled immediately. Okay. I'm not worried about him running past me. No one's worried about him running past them. So what fear does he put in any in cornerback or defense? What Cris Carter did in his career wasn't anything special. Maybe above average, but it wasn't anything special.
All right, man, I found this interesting. Asante Samuels, I would say Michael Beasley has been the new personality of the year. You know, kind of a guy that we've seen come up in the league, but really we now with the big three and the one-on-one with Lance Stevenson, aka Born Ready, you know, we starting to really see his personality. I would say he is now kind of the leader for the best light personality of, you know, 2025. The dislike, you know, is Asante Samuels. Might be a reason why his son ain't on the team neither. Son pretty good. Asante Samuels Sr. was a good player. You know, Hall of Famer, I mean, borderline. He talked about how he felt like he was better than Prime. We all laughed, like, you weren't even the best Patriot cornerback in your, you know, in the last 20 years. Some of guys like Ty Law, Aqib Talib, you know, Stephon Gilmore. When you start talking about Darrelle Revis, I feel like I'm forgetting another major corner that was over there, man. Oh, it was somebody else. I feel like I'm forgetting. We had a bunch of really good corners. So you wasn't even on that level. You know what I'm saying? Go Blue. Shout out to Ty Law. And that, you know, and that, I know a lot of people that feel that way. He's sitting here talking. He was a good corner. But you're sitting here talking on people that's above him in the hierarchy. So I should have played the videos in the beginning. He got mad at Cris Carter because Chad Johnson and Travis Hunter was having some back and forth, and Chad was like, "How I smoke Travis Hunter," and Chad's a Florida boy, just like Asante Samuels. And you know, Cris Carter basically took it serious, and they got mad. They been mad at him because he kept it a bean on Shedeur Sanders, which I did a video on that. He was 100% correct, honest. And black people hate anything that's correct or honest or close to conservative. They kind of want to be, I don't mean liberal and conservative in that way. They kind of like, oh, we're flashy. This is the way we are. But it's a time to be flashy. And it's a time to, you know, be a little bit more conservative in your approach and not be so bold and brash and flashy. You know what I'm saying? another conversation for another day. Already had. You can just put the Chris Carter, Shedeur Sanders name in the search bar and put my channel there. It'll come up, right? So he basically said that, Chad, Travis Hunter would basically lock up Chad Johnson. It was times in Chad Johnson's career, and when he got with New England, that he couldn't even get open versus NFL caliber receivers, basically saying Chad wasn't that good. He said, New England, he had to tell Chad what to do, and he couldn't survive outside of that Bengals thing. And Chad was a really good receiver. People like him, his personality, and I love Ocho Cinco. But yeah, and Patriots was a dud. You know what I'm saying? Everything was militant. 5 steps in a slant, or 5-10 yards in an out, or 5 yards in a speed out, whatever it may be. Chad was more of an unorthodox type of receiver that did things differently, but he wasn't militant, right? When you go to Chris Carter, very militant, be where he need to be at. And Asante Samuels is just speaking up for Chad Johnson. But in comparison on the hierarchy, Chris Carter is above both of them. And it is what it is. I grew up, Chris Carter was one of my favorite receivers to watch, and I was a Lions fan. He used to make some of the most amazing catches. He was part of that team that, I hated that didn't win a championship. I don't have a disdain for Minnesota other than when we played them. But that team with what was it, Gary Anderson and Morton Anderson missed that kick where they went 15-1. Cunningham, and everybody in the 90s brothers love Cunningham. Wasn't mobile no more, but he had become a full-fledged quarterback. Now he's a pastor. Robert Smith, Klein Saucer. You had Randy Moss. I think that was his rookie year. I mean, that team was phenomenal. That was one of the worst Super Bowls we ever seen in life, because they lost in Atlanta with Jamal Anderson and Scott Chandler and Ray Buchanan. That's when you got the infamous back and forth with Ray Buchanan and Shannon Sharp, which was fucking hilarious, by the way. That's when you got that. But yeah, I mean, it was a dud in the Super Bowl. The Broncos steamrolled them. I remember it, right. And I think it was their second Super Bowl victory. But Chris Carter, it was amazing. I mean, some of the best catches you ever seen. I mean, one-handed. You say, oh, he was a possession receiver. He didn't. I mean, so be it. He was a possession receiver, but I mean, this dude, receiving yards. This dude, his trials and tribulations. Buddy Ryan kicking him off the Eagles because his drug addiction. Him going to Minnesota and finding a second chance. He went to the whole Ohio State just like Robert Smith, but he was phenomenal to watch, man. He was a great route runner. Phenomenal hand, some of the best one-handed catches, and Randy Moss really took them over the top because Chris Carter had everything underneath, great red zone threat, and Randy just took the top off that defense. You had Robert Smith, running the ball and catching the ball. It was really a great offense, and Randall was at the peak of his mental powers. He understood the game, so yeah, it was phenomenal. So he couldn't run past, he couldn't do this, but the whole objective of the game is to move the change and catch ball. So he's just protecting Chad, and I can say that's honorable. And Chad knows how to protect himself, but Chad really can't speak on Chris Carter because Chris Carter was a better receiver. I mean, he could return fire, but it's no comparison. Chris Carter is one of the greatest receivers that ever lived. Chad Johnson is popular, but as far as the technique and the route running and his preciseness, I mean, he can't be, Chad can't touch him. You know what I'm saying? But Chad, as far as athleticism and getting down the field, yeah. But as a complete football player, Chris Carter is one of the greatest to ever do it. So it's kind of hard to dispute it. And he took, and shout out to Asante Samuel for speaking up for Chad. But in reality, neither one of you could say nothing to him. Can't say shit to him. I watched him growing up. Phenomenal receiver. So I feel Asante speaking up for his boy, but I think he took some jabber, some little playful jibber jabber between Hunter and Chad, seriously. But that's how old motherfuckers do. They take shit literally. But in reality, Chad wasn't the greatest receiver of all time. He was good, but there were some things to be desired. And I think that was exposed in New England. But nonetheless, check out the NFL playlist. thumbs up the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and subscribe button. It's the bell icon button. Hit all notifications, increase your chance to get notifications. We go live, drop video, hit the link tree. You can find me everywhere. Cash App, Venmo, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, Twitch, the whole nine. Patreon, other channels. Peace.